Welcome to my happy place. It's Carol, and I'm so happy that we are visiting. One of my New Year's resolutions having to do with art and me sitting here in my happy place at this table and sharing with you was that I wanted to spend this year, I want to spend more time just visiting with you. There are times when your comments and your lovely feelings make me realize that there are more things that we can share than just the actual arting. My my goodies, my purchases, my gifts, my whatever. Mostly just to share things that tickle me of the moment or something that I thought you might enjoy knowing about. So, as you can see, many little piles here and one over to the side. So, first thing I'm going to do is start with December 31st. That involves this pile right here and these. December 31st was my birthday, and I am now well and truly a member of the fourth quarter, and loving it. Actually, as one adds years on, particularly, I thought 70 was good, but 75 is much better. You become more liberated, freer, able to make decisions, as though they make a lot of sense to me, and I'm hoping they will somehow to you. One of my little small things was I'm not going to call this vlogs anymore. For a few years, that word has irritated me beyond belief, so I'm just going to call them chats. So, one of the things that I have done as Carol for, I would say, maybe 15 or 20 years, if my birthday doesn't fall on a Sunday, I have made a little girl ritual. I get up on my birthday morning and have breakfast and enjoy my gifts and my cards, and then I dress myself and I take myself out in the morning, maybe between 9:30 and 11:30 or 12, and I just go off and do something that I've been looking forward to doing, or something that I've been wanting to do, or maybe even just going back to the things that I have done before that I've enjoyed. And this this week, I went to the one and only art store in Jacksonville that really has materials for fine arts, but also goodies. And I walked in, I realized, oh, my goodness, don't tell me they're closing. And I asked the young lady, and she said, well, yes, we were going out of business because the man, I realized that the man who has owned this business is probably as old, if not older than I am, and he probably has had it with this and wants to retire, which is reasonable. But it still makes people who love art want to cry. And she said, well, and recently the store has been purchased. Yay. And so they're going to stay in the location that it is in now for a few months, and then they're going to change into what the area of Jacksonville called Springfield, which is a historic area. And I said, well, I looked at the shelves and they're kind of picked over, and she said, well, we're going to be restocking. And having been born and raised in Brooklyn, I thought to myself, I'll believe that when I see it. So I took myself around the store, and I found some goodies. Oh, super sale. I found these handmade paper envelopes, so I treated myself to 2 purples and to 2 pinky oranges and to 2 greenies. And I found these, and aren't they just delish, and aren't they nice and big and pretty? So I do believe these babies, I think these were like 30 or 40 cents a piece. and so there weren't many here because people didn't probably didn't get this. I believe I paid 20 cents a piece for those puppies. And then on a pile of stuff piled up, there was these papers. And can you see that lovely effect on these? Well, I just had to have these, and at about 20 cents a piece, a girl could not leave them. So this, and then I went to see if there were any of their handmade papers left, and there were some. Now these, of course, not on sale, but then I said, girl, it's your birthday. So look at this one. I just absolutely had to have this one. This is handmade papers glued together and inlaid between the papers. Can you see that? I hope so. Let me look and see if you can see it this way. In that are, I'll put the white paper underneath. It should be easier. In that are strings laid out between the papers. And there were only, this was only one sheet left, and I looked at it, and I went from one foot to the other and said, well, it's a little expensive, and I said, yes, but you're worth it, Carol. So, this, absolutely, I wish that you could feel it, I wish that you could see it. It is just lovely. So that was a present to me. And then I found, now, these papers were more reasonable. I could not resist. This one has so many fibers in there, and it almost looks as though there are leaves in here. I don't think that's so. I think they've somehow used paint, but I'm not sure. But here's another piece of paper that I positively could not resist, and it's a big one. So don't be surprised if you see some of this paper in my Etsy shop soon, because as I said, there's a limit to how much you can use. Now, this one, this is full of, this looks like, yes, it's full of fibers and all sorts of interesting things. And isn't this just the prettiest? So, that was my little birthday treat to myself. And this year, my husband called me, and he had finished his things he wanted to do. So he said, "Why don't we meet for lunch?" And we did. It turned out to be just a lovely morning and lunch with my guy. So, okay, now I'll just share this pile with you. I think I'll move these things over a little bit. I have been best friends with Kathy since we were 14 and 16, and we're talking about 60 years of being each other's other half. I don't have sisters, and neither we're both only children, so we are each other's only half, and we often laugh because over the years, she was the one who got us into trouble, and then she sat back and waited for Carol to clean it up and fix us and get us out of trouble. We had some adventures. Oh, yes, we did, because remember, this was the late 50s and early 60s in Brooklyn and in New York City. I'll say no more. So, having a friend like that, she knows how to rip me out of the frame. This was my... these were my birthday goodies from her. Let's start with these. She sent me a few of these pink doilies. Valentine's Day, I imagine. And this piece of, this is new, but so attractive. And she sent me these babies. Aren't these just the prettiest? There are 3 of them here. There are 3 of them, all of the same, but quite lovely. She and I both, over the years, had booths and cases in antique malls, and I think this was part of her stock. And this book, Victoria and Albert Museum Fashion Diary, 1984. And oh yes, yes, aren't these pages just lovely, lovely, lovely. And so, you know that I'm going to be, this is ephemera from this page, pieces ephemera from 1817. And all of these things would be, or are definitely, because of their age, would be in the public domain. So I'm going to be using them for some of my bits and bobs. And look at this little goodie. I remember this book when we purchased it, because it has to do with transfer patterns for stitchery, and we both did do stitching, and so I put the white behind it so that you can see that these are to be transferred and used. And aren't these just adorable? There again, I certainly am not going to be using all of these, so be on the lookout. Now, I don't know where she got these. It says the Gretna collection. Paper dolls, I think they were called, and the date, they have, some of them have dates on them. But I do remember these over the years, and I do remember seeing many of these in public domain. And these are from, I believe, 1999. But from what I have read about copyright, when you have a public domain image which you have a right to use, and this company does use it, I would find to be hard-pressed upon them explaining to anyone why they can use it, but the owners, the new purchasers of these, can't use it. So I'm going to be certainly enjoying these pictures. Old-time advertising paper doll. Now, I'm not probably going to be using all of these again, and there's certainly no reason on this earth why I can't share sheets, and I'm certainly going to be doing that. And many of these images, particularly this young woman, and this one, I do remember in the and her, I do remember are definitely antique pictures and pieces of Victorian and pre-Victorian ephemera, and so these are just lovely, in lovely condition, and just aching to be used. Of course, not to use, I'm certainly not going to scan them or anything of that nature, or try to sell them, but I just thought these would be just so pretty. She does know what I do like. Now, this Dover book is, as you can see, is all angels, and I am. I do like some of the little children angels. I'm not. I've never been drawn as a person. I've never been that drawn to them. But these pages are lovely, and I will certainly be passing some of these on. Here's another. I remember her purchasing this, and cutout dolls. Now, some people loved paper dolls when children of the 50s and late 40s and 50s were paper doll addicts. For some reason, I did it, but I never really played with them, and I never was too taken with it. Cutout dolls. Now, I was big on coloring books. Oh Lord, yes. In fact, I remember that I was around to the store as soon as the Queen Elizabeth's coronation in 1952 put out that magnificent coloring book, and oh my goodness, yes, didn't I have that coloring book for summer activities with fresh crayons. So that and sewing and doing things and making clothing and so forth for my dolls. But cutouts, not so much. But isn't this just a lovely, lovely, lovely trove of goodies to receive from your BFF? Now I'm going to have to kind of start to moan a little bit on the subject of her collection, her stash of fabric and lace, because we both collected antique dolls. I had given them up about 10 years ago, but she still sells them on Etsy, and she has a magnificent collection of dolls in her home, and she does make dolls' clothes. My mother really was the one that taught both of us how to make magnificent dolls' clothes. And I know that there are some boxes in her home that are just full of lace and fabric. So I'm going to have to give her a gentle reminder, and because I'm BFF, I can do that. No problem. So I thought I'd share this with you. Get these goodies out of the way. And for Christmas, she made me a hand crocheted a magnificent poncho for me. Today came this goodie. I purchased this as a little birthday present to self, and here it is just a few days later. I purchased two. The other one isn't going to be here for another week or two. But look at this lovely, 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 delightful book, and won't this be just wonderful for our journals and ephemera. And so, and this is a new one, and I just am so tickled with it, and I do like the size. It's very workable for what we do. So, if you're interested, I'll hold it for a moment. Wildflowers of Britain, Month by Month, by Margaret Erskine Wilson. And it came in just a few days. I'm going to be doing a little cutting in this one, and then this morning I got up early-ish, and after breakfast I snuck into my studio and I downloaded my video that is going to be coming, that I'm going to be sharing with you soonest, and it did work. Even though I put on such a fit because of the change, I have to admit, in all honesty, the newish series of this program, level 15, is faster and easier. So it worked a treat this morning. Just wonderful. And while I was doing that, I was kind of marooned in my studio here because we had an electrician in our bathroom because my husband was adding a heat lamp. And So let me explain this. Now, I think I've probably showed this to you. I had 3 of these, and I filled up number 1. I partially filled up this second one, and I had the third one, and I said I don't want to do that again. So put that aside. This is this. Already, it's already been stitched, and I looked at it and I said 9 by 9. I do love to work on squares, and this is 9 by 9 like the other 2. And I said, well, what can we do here? So I got out my cutting knife, and I dug in. So every bit of all of the papers that were here are here. I wasted nothing. This first one I cut down, and I added a bit of a flip here. And on this one, I did another flip, and I used my most innocuous washi tape with my Elmer's Extreme underneath it. And I did another one with a wide flip, and the little tiny piece of leftover paper is here. And then when I got to the second part, I said, now, is there any reason why you just can't take that, stand up, take that cutter, and just do this? And that's exactly what I did. I did this on this one. I did the same thing here, and the same thing on the back paper. And I just love the effect, a little bit of difference. Well, so I had 3 pieces of the negatives for these positives, and I said, now what am I going to do with these? Well, I had a brainstorm. Here is a pocket using the negative of one of these pages. I don't know which one. Might be this one, might be one of the others. So I put that pocket here. And then I had 2 more pockets left. And I said, only 1 page, and I don't want to put one here. Well, I put 1 pocket this way, and 1 pocket this way. And here it all is, ready for me to play in. Now, this is going to be for, I'm going to try to stick to my guns on this. I'm going to use watercolor, gouache, of course, probably a little bit of a small amount of focal collage, my pens, and probably, because this is nice, heavy, nice quality watercolor paper, I'm going to use my Prismacolor pencils. And I'm going to play. This is a playbook for this year. Here. I also have this one. I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, I made this book, and this is my very first experiment with watercolor through a stencil. And some back here. Heavy quality. I think it comes from the same pad that this is. This pad of paper was Canson's very nicest, but the piece of paper was probably the size of this. The pad is probably the size of this cover. So we have this paper, and then in October 2017, I just put some watercolor down, and I used it as a basis for doodling. And in February 2018, I did this one. And I said, waste not, want not. Ready to go. October 2017. I had these. I just, used my watercolor on here and just plopped it down and saw what I could do with it, what fun I could have. And so that's in here. And this one, and again in October. Haven't attacked that one yet. So that's going to be in here. And I added this, even though it is not on watercolor paper. I was doing some drawing, and I was using the book Diary of a Rose Lover, and I did some sketching. And I remember putting some gouache down on this paper, and I doodled those. And so I said, I think this is going to be the center of this. And here, another one from November. Just playing with pen, watercolor, and pen. Here and here. And these were just what fell out of my brain at that time. So, these are going to be, if I have any art character, I'm going to stick with practicing and playing with just watercolor, gouache, and pen here. But this one, I have to have a little bit of Prismacolor. I haven't used them in ages, and they are so wonderful. They work so beautifully over watercolor that's going to be this playbook. So I thought I would share these two playbooks with you. And this goodie that came in the mail today, because I declared myself a very good girl. And these goodies from Kathy. Birthday present to love. And treats to self. I do hope you have enjoyed this visit. I'm going to try to do this more often because it is fun to visit with you. I do hope that you will have enjoyed this, and if you have, I would appreciate you leaving me a comment. By now, I'll be seeing you soon.